All right, so this is Cataclysm by GMT Games. Now it says a Second World War, not the Second World War, and that is because, well, you could have what did happen, but more likely it's going to be something a little bit different than the historic case. But this is going to present players with a plausible model of that time period. So you actually have two maps. Now, this is the first edition paper maps, and I didn't get the mountain map upgrade with the thicker box. I kind of regret that I didn't do that during the half-off sale. The truth be told, I just didn't think of ordering it at that time. But anyways, you have a half-size sheet, which is your European front, and then the Pacific is another half sheet. If you were actually to orient these 90 degrees like so, and the other one like so, it would form a single map sheet that would fit about the same size as a standard map. I haven't oriented it that way because I'm just poking around with it solitaire, just kind of playing it God mode, and I like to be able to see everything face up, and so I have it oriented that way. Every single faction in the game belongs to one of three different ideologies. So you have the Democratic faction, which is France, Great Britain, and the United States. These are the three democratic powers. You have the communist faction, which is its own power, the Soviet Union. There's no other communist factions in the game, so they're a power and a faction in and of themselves. And then you have three fascist factions, and so you have, of course, Germany, you have Italy, and then you have, sorry about the glare there, you also have Japan. And so the three different ideologies are going to be competing against one another. So this plays well as a two-player game where you can, there's a way to deal with the Soviet side. There's also lots of one-map scenarios that play really good with two players. But it works best if you have at least three players, because then you have one player managing these three powers, one with the Soviets, one balancing these guys. Every single one of these different powers has different capabilities. They have a different force pool that you can have built into the game. You have a different economy, and one of the challenges of playing the game is trying to figure out how to best build your armed forces to wage the kind of war that's going to be waged. So this is a game that it's like a big sandbox, but it's very, very broad brush. Like you can see the areas on the map are like all of North. This is like one space on the map. And so you have armies, land armies, which can be upgraded into tank armies. They can be, if you build that into your economy, you can have them become equipped primarily with armored fighting vehicles. You have aircraft, air force. These are termed air forces. They can become strategic air forces if you have that upgrade built into your economy. You have fleets, carrier-equipped fleets if they get upgraded, and you build that upgrade potential. And then you also have submarine flotillas, which we don't have any built right now. The United States has some in their force pool. And so you have actually quite a few counters in the game that are what you could build, but in every game, you're never going to put all your pieces into play. You're going to be limited as to how many you can have a combination of in your force pool plus on the map at any given moment. And that's going to be determined in large part by the commitment level of your nation. Most of the nations start at civilian commitment. There's no, very little armament can be in play. It's hard to build things. It's expensive to build things, but you don't have to worry about the home front and how your population feels about the war because you're in a civilian mentality at home. There's no war on your horizon as far as your citizens are concerned. You can advance to rearmament, which allows you to build more forces. You'll get more forces added to your force pool, and it's more effective. You become more effective at building them. You can build them much faster. If you get your commitment up to mobilization, you can then begin to engage in much more military activities. You can do invasions. You can do all kinds of military operations, and it's much more effective at building. Finally, when you get to total war, whole lots of things happen. You can build a much larger force pool. More pieces get added to this. And then you can also build your forces at a much greater capacity. Also, every time you upgrade these things, you're going to get offensives that gives you the potential of doing military operations on the map. But in the early stage of the things, in the 1930s, you're going to be spending a lot of your actions actually doing a lot of diplomacy, deciding what kind of a wartime economy you want to have. And again, this is done with a very broad brush treatment. So a lot of this is determined by when you advance your commitment level, what types of units do you put in your force pool? That's where you're deciding what kind of wartime economy you're going to have. So you really need to think ahead and plan ahead. Now for new players, that's going to be a challenge because you don't know what in the Sam Hill I should be doing. So if you're a new player, I recommend you do this. Go to this document right here and go through the extended, it's not really a tutorial, but it is an example play that'll take you through 2 solid turns. Go through that. I would say go through that before you even try to read the rule book, and then visit the rule book, because you could punch out the pieces, put it on the board, go through that, and it'll help you to get a feel for what's going on in the game. I think that's probably the best way to learn this. This is not, it may look simplistic, but it's not. This is actually a very deep, very, very, very complex game. There's a lot of things happening here. Now, the rules aren't terribly long. I think there's like 40 pages of rules maybe. So it's not terribly long, but there's a lot happening in the game, and there's a lot of special rules. The play aids that come with the game are pretty good. It's a 4-panel fold out, double-sided. And so most of the information you're going to need to play the game is going to be on this thing. But your first few plays, you're going to need to go to the rulebook quite a bit to make sure you're understanding things. And so what I'm going to try to do is do a few videos to show some of the concepts of Cataclysm, because I feel like this is a really, really good game. It's up for a second printing, and this is one of my favorite. If you want to take the whole war and be able to fit it on one tabletop, give you that full experience. I recently played some of Storm Over Asia, which is a World at War prequel game. That's a really deep, very complex, very challenging to learn game. You're going to get the same maybe kind of feel. It's not going to be nearly as detailed, but you're going to get the same kind of feel for things playing this game. And you get to do the whole, integrates with the whole time period up to 1946 from 1933. And you get the feel of that in a very, very playable format that you can do over the course of a weekend. So if you want to play like the whole shebang, from 1933 all the way to the end of the war at 1946, this one here could take, I'm going to guess 6 to 8 hours, depending on the skill level and experience of the players. So this is something that's not going to be a quick game if you play the whole shooting match, but it is definitely very playable. So stay tuned. I want to do some more videos and show how this thing works, because again, this is a really, really cool game. I've had a lot of fun with it, but it's been on my shelf for quite a while, so I've had to actually relearn the rules. And so I thought I'd take a few videos and show a little bit about this really cool game. So stay tuned to the channel. We'll bring you some more Cataclysm here in the next few days.